Welcome back. I'm Roz Rothstein. You're here with Stand With Us on JLTV. We're here with Hussein, and we're talking about really his own personal Arab Spring well before the Arab Spring. So let's continue the conversation. So they called security, they called the authorities, and then what happened?
They started to monitor me closely. I didn't know. They really did not start to have direct contact with me till I started to visit the Israeli Academic Center, which is an academic center, a very small place sponsored by Israel in Egypt for any researcher that would like to read about Israel or have primary sources from the library. But no need to say that nobody actually visited. I mean, I remember the first time I visited it, the workers, very poor. They sit there all day long, nobody comes by. And they treated me like a king because I was like the only person who come to visit them in this desert. After I visited the Israeli Academic Center, the security agency called me on the phone, and they started to threaten me. Well, listen, enough with this. We don't need you to have anything to do with Israel, with the Jews. You're still young. We can do this. We can do that. And they are very fearful, really, in Egypt, because back at the time they were able to do anything to anybody. They can just take you. There is no trial, no lawyers, no law, no nothing.
So when you say they're very fearful, you mean the people?
The people,
The
yeah,
people.
it's they are very frightening. Let's say that they are very mighty. They have all the authority. They can do anything to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be fearful of such an agency.
Right.
So I was very scared. I was maybe 19 or 20 at the time. I'm very young for this. But I insisted to keep doing what I'm doing because I was driven by strong curiosity to understand and know better how the world operates and tell the people what I know. And unfortunately, I'm a type of people who just can't sit down when I hear something that's utterly wrong. Mm-hmm. And I see as utterly wrong, according to my convictions.
Did you have some final last straw? Was there some moment in time that really pushed you over?
At school, yes. I remember one time a professor who was a radical Muslim at the time, and he was supposedly teaching the students, giving us a course of Jewish religion. So basically what he would do, he would enter the class, and this is, I'm speaking about an academic institution. He would go inside and he will keep telling the students how that Judaism is a very evil religion and teaches people very horrible things to kill, to commit murder, and slaughter Christians, to make matzot for Pesach, and all these legends. And this was an academic institution by a professor. And I knew that those poor kids, my colleagues, many of them they don't have my English to go and search online for themselves, and for them that guy is a professor and
an authority.
An authority on what he's telling. So that really pushed me. And I remember I had a big fight with that professor, and that was a big deal at the school. And later on, I was actually arrested by the state security and my father as well. Of course, they kept interrogating me, they threatened me, and all of that.
So I'm sure you felt guilty about your father.
I felt guilty about my father,
arrested.
Especially that my father had a heart condition, and they threatened me that it may, you know how it goes. They threatened me, your father is an old guy with heart condition, something may happen to him. But I came actually with a strategy that actually worked. I showed them that I actually don't care about my family, and they actually bought it. And this actually saved my family from the harassment by them. Later on, I went to military prison for 3 months because they suspected me being a spy and a Zionist and an infidel and all these great things. It was a horrible time for me. I lost faith in anything. I didn't know what to do with my life later on. I was so full of anger after I came out from this experience. But luckily enough, 30 days later, the Arab Spring began. I remember the last time I was released from prison, that was in December 26, 2010. 30 days later, we had the biggest demonstration in the streets of Egypt for people going against the government. I was so excited, I was so happy, I just went with it. Because for me, I felt it's not just opposition towards a dictatorship. It's my own vengeance from what happened to me. But then one time, I remember when the police started to become very hostile and shoot us with live ammunition in the streets. I remember that I was running. I had a gas mask. I was one of the lucky people that actually bought gas masks. So what the police would do, you know, when the administration is coming, they would bomb it with gas, so you can't see, you barely can move, and then they would start shooting, so they can
Wow.
kill as much as they can from people. I was lucky enough to have a gas mask. So I remember one time they did that, and I started running. But while I started running, I saw a guy on the ground, totally unconscious, and he's just bleeding from his face. And I don't know if he's alive or dead. And then I couldn't leave him because I know if I left him, he's probably gonna die from the gas. And I had to start moving him, and I tried to carry him. It was one of my most, let's say, humanistic experience or defining moments in my life. I then understood that the problem is not just hate, and the problem is not just religion. It's poverty, it's ignorance, it's dictatorships that need to go in order for the region to prosper.
Hussein, I need to invite you back to continue this story. There'll be a part 2, so I hope everybody will stay tuned and watch the second half of this story, which is profound. And so, is that all right? Will you come back?
Yes, absolutely. My
okay,
pleasure.
Good, because we want to hear the rest of this story. It's incredible. Thank you for being with us today. We'll see you next time on Stand With Us.